Hi everyone, my name is Khaled with KINETIQ, and today I want to share with you a really common problem that we see every time we talk to both finance and operations leaders. And it is that their financial data and operational data have never been in the same room, and there are huge disconnects between the information that finance is using and what operations is leveraging to drive the business. And so this fragmentation costs the business, and we can see a lot of examples of this, where, for example, of course, your finance data lives in the ERP, but your operational drivers and the assumptions that go into your forecasting and analytics are held completely separately. Of course, your demand signals and volume assumptions, standard costing are often done in different places and disconnected from the reality that is actually happening within the business. So every planning cycle starts with people pulling data from different systems and trying to stitch it together by hand to understand your picture of demand, costs, volume, and your actual OpEx. And so no one ends up designing it this way. That's just sort of what happens as the business grew and evolved in complexity. And so you end up spending a lot of time chasing data to unify your finance picture and your operational drivers. So this impacts the business in a lot of ways. Of course, finance spends a large part of their time collecting data instead of analyzing it. By the time they've assembled that picture, some of the inputs are already out of date and they're working with stale information. Shifts in your operations, and this is a huge gap, is when your volume shifts or your demand signal changes, your costs have changed, or there are changes in a supplier or the availability or lead time of supplies. That actually takes days for the finance team to surface and analyze. And by the time they do that, they end up making decisions on data that didn't really reflect what's actually happening in the business today. And so the people who are closest to the numbers are the ones least able to trust them. And that's a huge challenge for especially folks whose primary job is analyzing that data and making decisions. So what it looks like to fix it is when you have one picture, which is current every time you open it up. So it's one place where your financial and operational data lives together, and you can actually work on analyzing data without having to manually assemble it before you can get started. It's where operational changes show up in your financial picture without waiting for someone to update a spreadsheet. And these can be simple things or they can be very complex standard costing across hundreds of thousands of SKUs. But when you do that, you have a starting point that reflects connected data, not a reconciliation exercise for everyone to go through. And you can save time and make faster decisions because you're not spending the time gathering and chasing data. This means that you can plan with one version of the story, and you can use data and numbers you trust to build a confident picture of which forecast and which plan to go with. Now, what we see when we talk to folks is they're trying to go on a journey from manual assembly to a connected financial view. And what that means is today they often start with the financial data in their ERP, the drivers in spreadsheets and other systems where they have to connect it manually and slowly to assemble a picture of the business today and where their forecast will be for tomorrow. What it looks like and where you're trying to go is where you can connect everything in one layer in one place, and your operational drivers and your financial plan are all aligned so that you start with analysis, not data collection. So a lot of folks don't know where to start on this journey of unifying finance and operations data to shore up your forecasting and analytics processes. And so we partner with operations and finance leaders to build a blueprint, which is just a focused diagnostic that tells you where your finance and operational data are disconnected, help you quantify how that's impacting the business and prioritize where to make your investment, and then show you what you can do to architect and roadmap a solution where you can connect all of that data for the right people in the right time. Now, if that's something you're dealing with and you're in finance and operations chasing the data you need to do your job, you can check out this QR code and get in contact with the team, and we'll work with you to figure out how and where to get started to solve this problem.